Before we get into today's show, let me tell you about the latest deal from Mike Lindell, MyPillow. Once again, the big box stores have canceled their orders simply because they don't agree with Mike Lindell's politics. They don't like it because he supports President Trump. Well, he's going to pass that savings on to you. No more middleman. And boy, does he have some great deals on the Giza Dream sheets and the Percal bed sheets. Listen to this. Giza Dream queen size, normally $139.98. Your wholesale price, $69.99 when you use promo code Joey. King size, only $79.99. The Percal queen size, normally $89.98. Your wholesale price, $29.98 when you use promo code Joey. Just call 1-800-893-4059 or go to MyPillow.com. Always use promo code Joey. Free shipping options available. This allotment's not going to last very long. When they're gone, they're gone. MyPillow.com. Promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in as we wrap up another week on this Friday. Glad to have you. President Donald Trump will sign an executive order later today that will change the name of the Department of Defense back to the Department of War, reverting to the agency's former namesake that was changed in 1949. Democrat Portland Mayor Keith Wilson warned in an email sent to thousands of recipients that President Donald Trump could target Portland, Oregon next if it doesn't fix its homelessness crisis. At least there is a Democrat mayor out there who recognizes reality. Former President Joe Biden was seen with heavy bandages on his head after it was revealed that he has some cancerous skin tissue that was removed this week right there on his forehead. We have an update on Biden's latest health scare. And Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette joins us to discuss the U.S. Department of Justice's request for South Carolina voter registration data to be sent to Washington to be included in a federal database.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Big news out of Washington today as President Donald Trump is set to sign an executive order to change the name of the Department of Defense back to its historic title, the Department of War. That's right. For the first time since 1949, America will once again have a Secretary of War and a Department of War. This is more than a name change. I think you could probably safely say that this is more of a cultural shift within the Department of War. President Trump and his Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, have been talking for weeks about restoring what they call the warrior ethos inside of the Pentagon. They made it clear America doesn't win wars by playing defense. We win by taking the fight to the enemy. As the president himself put it just a few days ago, and this is a quote, everybody likes that we had an unbelievable history of victory when it was the Department of War. Then we changed it to the Department of Defense. Now think about that. The United States fought World War I and World War II and won them with a Department of War. Since the switch to Department of Defense, we've been bogged down in endless wars, endless contingencies, fighting to maintain rather than fighting to win, according to a lot of people within the current Department of Defense. Words matter. I don't think anyone can argue. Titles matter. And the Trump administration is sending a clear signal to the world. America is back on offense. Hegseth, who Trump has already been calling Secretary of War, summed it up on Fox and Friends. He said, we want warriors, folks that understand how to exact lethality on the enemy. We don't want endless contingencies and just playing defense. Words and names and titles matter. And that's exactly right. For too long, the Pentagon has been run by bureaucrats more concerned with equity and diversity quotas than with winning wars. Under Joe Biden, the focus was on woke training programs and climate change. Under President Trump, the focus is back on victory and defending our freedoms, defending our freedom of speech, defending our our liberties, defending our freedom to worship. This change is part of a bigger transformation. President Trump, Pete Hegseth are raising standards. They're bringing back toughness, restoring what they call the warrior mentality. And that's how you rebuild the greatest fighting force that the world has ever seen. For those who may not know, the Department of War was our nation's original military department. It dated way back to 1789. And for 160 years, it oversaw the Army and helped steer America through every major conflict. It wasn't until the reforms of the National Security Act of 1947, which was right after World War II, that the Department of War became the Department of Defense. By 1949, the name was officially changed, part of a reorganization that also created the CIA and the Joint Chiefs of Staff. But now President Trump is saying enough with the semantics of the word, quote, defense. America is a superpower. Our enemies don't fear defense. They fear strength. They fear warfighters. They fear a nation that will take the fight to them before they bring it to us. It's just that simple. So let's talk specifics. The order, which will be signed later today, makes Department of War a secondary title alongside Department of Defense. That means Pete Hegseth will be referred to not only as Secretary of Defense, but also as Secretary of War. The Pentagon's public-facing signage will be updated. The briefing room will be renamed the Pentagon War Annex. And over the long term, Hegseth is instructed to work with both Congress and the White House to make the name change permanent. Trump's already made it clear he doesn't think that he even needs Congress. In his words, we're just going to do it. I'm sure Congress will go along if we need that. I don't think we even need that, he said. That's vintage Trump. Bold, decisive, not waiting around for permission from the Washington politicians. Now, why is that important? In the Biden years, America looked weak. We fled Afghanistan in chaos. We let China walk all over us. We let cartels control our southern border. We were always on our heels, always reacting, always apologizing. President Trump is flipping the script. He says America doesn't just defend. America wins. We don't just react, we act. We don't just hold ground, we take ground. The Department of War represents strength, decisiveness, and victory. The Department of Defense, as it's been run in recent decades, has represented caution, bureaucracy, and endless stalemate. Of course, the left will melt down over this. They already are. They'll say it's warmongering. They'll say it's dangerous. They'll say that Trump is being reckless. But let's be honest. The same people who cry about this are the ones who supported endless defensive wars that dragged on for 20 years without victory. The same people who turned the Pentagon into a social experiment while our enemies like China, Russia, and Iran got stronger. Trump's move is not about starting wars. It's about restoring deterrence. When America projects strength, we actually have to fight less. Because if you show strength to a bully like Putin, he's not going to come looking for a war. He's not going to want to fight. Our enemies will think twice. Peace through strength. It's not just a slogan, it's reality. So here's what I think is the bottom line. Today, President Trump will sign his 200th executive order of his second term, and it is going to be a historic one. The Department of Defense is being reborn as the Department of War. It's about more than paint on a sign, though. It's about America sending a message to the entire world. We are done with weakness. We are done with endless defense. We are back to victory. And don't mess with us unless you want to fight. From George Washington to Dwight Eisenhower, America's great generals and leaders understood one thing. Wars are won by warriors. Not by committees, not by diversity consultants, not by playing defense forever. And President Trump understands that. And that's why with this executive order, he's not just changing a name, he's changing the culture of the Pentagon. He's restoring America's warrior ethos, and in a big way. And I'll tell you what, the enemies of of our country, I think they're paying attention. I think they're sitting up. I think they see the Department of War as someone you don't want to mess with. And they know America means business once again. And that's a good thing, isn't it? I'd love to hear from some of my veterans. You think this is the right move? Or is the left right? That this is just asking for trouble. This is trying, that this could just potentially stoke the bear. Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. Leave me a message on the MyPillow message line, 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Always use promo code Joey when you go to MyPillow.com, and you'll get the very best deal that Mike Lindell will offer. Promo code Joey at MyPillow.com. America is in a health crisis, and by America, not just strangers across the country. It's personal. Me, you, friends, and family. And a major cause? Excess weight. Joey Hudson here. The solution isn't expensive shots like Ozempic. It's learning how to eat and think about food differently, and that's what PhD Weight Loss does. Their clients lose up to a third of their body weight, no drugs, just real food, behavioral coaching, and proven science to turn your body into a fat-burning machine. Sure, you could spend up to $20,000 a year on injections that burn muscle, not fat, and come with risks like pancreatitis or bowel blockages, only to gain it all back. PhD helps your body naturally produce weight loss hormones like GLP-1s, no shortcuts, just results that last. Already on Ozempic? Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team will help you safely transition off and keep losing weight. Let's make America healthy again. Call 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900 or visit myphdweightloss.com. Interesting story out of Portland, Oregon. Let me ask you a question first. What happens when you let homelessness spiral out of control? When you allow radical activists to run your city, to control the streets? When you prioritize ideology over safety? Well, let me tell you what you'll get. A city like Portland, Oregon. Now the city's own Democrat mayor, Keith Wilson is his name, is admitting it. He's terrified that President Donald Trump could bring Portland to heel the same way that he just did in Washington, D.C. He sent out an email, sent out this email to thousands of people. And Mayor Wilson warned that if Portland doesn't, quote, move with speed, purpose, and compassion on homelessness, Donald Trump will swoop in with what he described as bulldozers and mass arrest by masked agents. This was a letter trying to stoke fear. This was a letter trying to motivate people with fear. I mean, bulldozers and mass arrest. Let me translate that. What the mayor calls bulldozers, the rest of America, you and me, we call cleaning up the streets. What the mayor calls mass arrest, the rest of us call just simply enforcing the law. Letting your police officer do what you have hired and you pay your police officers to do. Now, here's the reality. In Washington, President Trump deployed the National Guard. He cracked down on violent crime. He swept homeless encampments off of the sidewalks. The result? Safer streets, fewer carjackings, a cleaner, livable city in a pretty quick fashion. Remember, it's just been a few weeks since President Trump took over. Guess what? Even D.C.'s own Democrat mayor is admitting that violent crime dropped by 45% and carjackings are down 87% after President Trump's actions. Now, that's not a bulldozer. That's just simply results. The White House put it perfectly. Getting homeless people off the streets is common sense. Safer for residents, safer for visitors, and guess what? Safer for the homeless people themselves. But Portland's mayor, he doesn't want that. He'd rather beg for donations for worship chairs, haircut services, and resume writing clinics. I kid you not. I'm not making this up. That's in his email. Listen, I'm for helping people get back on their feet. We should do that. That's the compassionate thing. That's the right thing to do. But let's not confuse resume writing workshops with what Portland really needs. And that's a backbone to stand up and do something. Mayor Wilson went even further. He used his email to reaffirm Portland's status as a sanctuary city, promising his local police will not cooperate with ICE even after violent clashes outside an ICE facility. Now, let me remind you, just last week, anti-ICE protesters in Portland rolled out a guillotine, and confronted law enforcement. Officers had to fire munitions to disperse the mob. And this is the city that doesn't want federal help. This is the city that thinks it can police itself. I'm not thinking so. You? I mean, this is the story of two Americas. On the one side, you've got President Trump's America. Decisive leadership, law and order, putting safety first. In D.C. and Chicago, he's sending in troops, cleaning up the mess, proving that government can actually protect its citizens when they're doing the right thing. That the police can actually enforce the law when they're allowed to. Now, on the other side, you have the Portlands of America. Excuses, panic emails, endless nonprofit wish list, and political leaders who are more worried about Trump than they are about families who can't let their kids play outside because of encampments and violence. I mean, what's wrong with that? Mayor Wilson wants to draw a clear distinction, he says, between his compassionate approach and Trump's so-called heavy hand. Well, here's the distinction. Trump's approach works. It's already working in Washington. Wilson's doesn't work. And Portland is where it is today because of that. Make no mistake here. This isn't really about policy. This is about politics. Wilson is terrified of Trump's success because if Portlanders and the rest of America see how much better life gets when the federal government actually enforces the law, it exposes progressive leadership for the failure that it actually is. That's why Democrats scream dictator every time Trump deploys the National Guard. That's why they call it bulldozers instead of cleanup crews, because the contrast is devastating for them. Trump gets results. They just allow the chaos to continue. And let's not forget, this isn't just politics. Real people are suffering here. In Portland, families live in fear of homeless encampments right outside of their homes, and there's nothing they can do about it. Parents are afraid to walk their kids to school. Small businesses are shutting their doors because customers won't risk walking past the tents and the needles on the ground. And the homeless themselves, they're left in dangerous, filthy conditions that no civilized society should tolerate. You've got drugs, violence, exploitation. I mean, really, that's not compassion to allow this to continue. That's just simply neglect. That's neglecting your duties. Trump's model, clean the streets, enforce the law, connect people to treatment and shelter. It's compassion with accountability. Portland's model, hand out haircuts and resume workshops while the street remains unsafe. That's failure dressed up as virtue. So here's the bottom line. Portland's mayor can send all the emails that he wants. He can beg for volunteers. He can double down on sanctuary policies. But at the end of the day, Portland is on the clock. If the city doesn't fix its homeless crisis, I think President Trump will. I think he'll use them as another example of where law enforcement can actually eliminate the chaos. When Trump does this, if he does, residents are going to see the difference. And that's why Keith Wilson is in a panic mode right now, because deep down he knows what's coming. A safer, cleaner, stronger Portland, and the people are going to hold him accountable. That's the kind of Portland its people deserves. But the kind of Portland its leaders have failed to deliver, and they're about to be shown that. And when that happens, when the people see that real results can actually happen instead of the excuses, Democrats will have nobody to blame but themselves, because compassion without accountability is not leadership. It's weakness, and weakness has no place in the cities of America. Trump's showing the country what real leadership looks like. And it has these Democrat progressive mayors just terrified that their people are going to wake up once and for all. The South Carolina Department of Education released the results of their South Carolina Ready test. These are the standardized tests that are given in the schools, and not exactly what we wanted. We'll get into that in just a moment. First, an update out of Washington. The latest from the Biden medical files, if you will. And this is a file that keeps growing. Former President Joe Biden, 82 years old now, has reportedly undergone surgery to treat skin cancer. And this news comes, of course, after viral videos showed him with what looked like a deep gash or bandaged wound on the side of his head. Now, at first, there were whispers, rumors, plenty of speculation, because let's face it, Biden hasn't exactly been the picture of vitality lately, right? But now we've got confirmation from his own spokesperson that he had surgery to remove cancerous skin tissue. They haven't said what kind of skin cancer, but the procedure is often used to treat basal cell carcinoma. It's a serious operation where thin layers of skin are removed one at a time until the cancer is gone. Not a Band-Aid and a smile situation, folks. This is real. Now, here's where it's a little troubling. This comes, of course, after we learned earlier this year that Biden was diagnosed with stage 4 prostate cancer that had already spread to his bones. And remember last year, they took off a basal cell carcinoma from his chest. So he had chest cancer in 2023, or a spot on his chest, prostate cancer, and now skin cancer surgery to his head in 2025. I mean, this man has had 3 cancer-related procedures in 3 years. And yet, somehow, the media still refuses to ask the questions that they hammer Trump with. I mean, Trump disappeared for a couple of days. He just took a couple of days with his family, and people have him dead. Joe Biden appears to have some serious issues, and boy, he doesn't look good at all. Not with the video that I saw of Joe Biden this week. So you got the former president who, I mean, Biden's out doing rallies, holding press conferences. I think he wants to still be a player, a kingmaker, if you will, in the Democrat Party. He's being photographed, though, with a baseball cap covering a fresh wound while appearing frail outside of church services that he had been to. So, I mean, this isn't mocking someone's health. It's about transparency, and especially from someone who held the nuclear codes less than a year ago and still plays or wants to play a major role in Democrat party politics. And, you know, the Democrat bench is practically empty right now. They're searching. So if Biden were to re-enter the arena as a kingmaker, his health isn't just a personal matter. It could be an issue within the Democrat Party. But hey, that's their problem, not ours, right? All right, so back to South Carolina and the SC Ready test, the standardized exams that are given to all 3rd through 8th graders. They take them each spring. Here's the headline. Reading is up. Math, still a problem. So let's start with the good news. 60% of students can read on grade level, and that's good. That's the highest ever since these tests began a decade ago. In fact, reading scores in South Carolina have now surpassed pre-COVID levels. Back in 2021, only 42% of kids were on grade level in reading. So in just a few years, we've seen nearly 20-point improvement in this. And that's real progress. That's something that we can applaud. But on the flip side, math is still lagging badly. Just 44% of students, according to the exam results, less than half, can do math at their grade level. That means more than half of our kids from 3rd grade through middle school are behind in math. Why is that? And the older they get, the worse it looks. In 8th grade, the last stop, of course, before high school, only 32% of students are doing math at grade level. I mean, that's 1 out of 3. Now, that should make every parent, every teacher, every lawmaker in South Carolina sit up and think about this. So why are we seeing such a big improvement in reading but not in math? I'd love to get the answer to that from some of our educators. Now, some would say that the answer is simple. Reforms. 3 years ago, South Carolina changed how it teaches kids to read. Teachers were trained in a program called Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling, LETRS. It focuses on phonics, sounding out words, rather than the 3-cueing method that basically told kids to guess words based on context. Every K-3 teacher in the state is finishing that training by the end of this school year, and guess what? It appears to be working. At J.C. Lynch Elementary in Florence, reading proficiency jumped 10 points in 1 year. Statewide, we're seeing similar results. Math, on the other hand, though, hasn't had that kind of overhaul until now. So here's what you need to know. This past spring, Superintendent Ellen Weaver and her team launched something called the Pamela Math Project. It's designed to do for math what the letters did for reading. Teachers are getting training, math coaches are going into schools, and the curriculum itself is being restructured. They're even changing the order of classes, putting geometry ahead of algebra, because geometry is more concrete and easier for kids to grasp before moving into abstract algebra. That's probably a good thing. At least the teachers say it is. The state is also rolling out OGAP, the Ongoing Assessment Project. According to the Department of Education, this gives teachers tools to better understand how students learn math step by step. And online programs like Zern Math are being introduced to give kids more practice and feedback. So right now, we're told it's in about 140 schools. If it works, it'll be expanded statewide. Lawmakers have already put $10 million into it. And I say, hey, that's good, because the stakes could not be higher. So let's be blunt here. Reading is the foundation. You can't do anything in school without it. But math is the gateway to jobs, to opportunity, to the modern economy. You gotta have your basic math skills. If South Carolina kids can't master middle school math, they're going to struggle in high school, and more so in college and in the workforce. Patrick Kelly, a teacher who lobbies for the Palmetto State Teachers Association, put it well. Math skills build on each other. If you're behind in one grade, you're more likely to stay behind in the next. And here's the concern. Our third graders, the kids who've had the benefit of these new reading programs from the start, are doing the best. More than half of them are on grade level in math, but by 8th grade, barely a third are. That's the pipeline problem. If we don't fix it now, we're setting up too many kids for failure down the road, and we just can't have that. We got to get this corrected right now. And kudos to Ellen Weaver and her team at the Department of Education for getting ahead of this and doing what has to be done to get this ship turned around. Your comments are welcome on the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Firmin Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Firmin Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Firmin Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Firmin, Matthew Firmin. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Firmin Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Firmin Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Firmin Ford online at firminford.com, firminford.com. Joining us on our guest line, Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette. Welcome. How are you on this Labor Day week? When the week starts with Labor Day or a holiday like that, the whole week just kind of seems off. I mean, you never really get back on schedule till Monday rolls around again.
You're absolutely right. I woke up this morning kind of wondering what day it was, Joey, but it was great having a long weekend. It was, if you were anywhere around South Carolina, it was a jam-packed weekend from football games to tailgating to parades and Darlington. We had, Darlington on Sunday, the track that's too tough to tame, and that just grabs just a ton of people to our wonderful state. So it was a jam-packed weekend for sure.
And I saw that DJ was there at Darlington, right?
He did. He came back. The Darlington sheriff invited him, so I got to see him again. And, everybody keep your eye on. His dad shared with me the fact, well, he told me when he was here when I had invited them up that he was thinking of running for Congress. And his dad has now has decided to throw his name in the ring, and he's running for that unfilled seat in Texas.
Wow. Okay.
And, and is going to see what he can do to help out President Trump and get another Republican over there in Congress. Yeah. So I told him I wish him the best of luck, and we'll be rooting for him here from South Carolina.
Absolutely. That will be one to watch for sure. One other thing before we get into a couple of issues here, you're in a bit of trouble with me. You did last week, you did not tell me it was your birthday. Then, then I started seeing all these posts, happy birthday. And I thought, I didn't know. So happy belated birthday.
Well, thank you. I was in your neck of the woods. I was up in Oconee County at the Oconee County GOP that night. And they were such a sweet group. I mean, they got me pink roses. Somebody had told them that my favorite color was pink, and they had a birthday cake for me. So even though I wasn't home that night, my family and I celebrated the next day. The Oconee County GOP made me feel very welcome with a birthday cake and singing me happy birthday. So thanks so much to them. I
saw some of those photos, my buddy JR up there. And so, so happy belated birthday. I'm sorry that, I was a little late on that, but so, all right. A couple things that have been in the news this past week that I wanted to ask you about. First off, there's a lawsuit challenging the U.S. Department of Justice and their request for all South Carolina voter data, names, addresses, date of birth, driver's license, last four of social. And it appears the state was ready to hand this over to the federal government until the lawsuit was filed, which now has a lot of people asking questions. Well, why do they need it? Why does the DOJ need our voter information? You've got the privacy group saying this is just another list that my data would be available for a hacker. And so there are a lot of questions on this. And it has me asking the question, why would we hand over our voter data to the federal government when they really have nothing to do with elections?
Well, when these kind of things happen, and I always ask myself that there's probably something bigger that they're looking for that we have yet to know about. I do want to make sure that if they are looking to give people more confidence in elections, that we do what we can, Joey, because, we do have a voter turnout problem. Even here in our amazing state, this great conservative state, we have less than 13% of people that get out and vote. That was the last number I heard from the last primary. And that's dismal. And when I talk about getting out to vote, Joey, that's kind of the one thing is people say, well, does my vote really count? Is my vote being counted properly? These are all kind of these doubts that have been put in people's minds. And I'm hoping that whatever we do, we see what President Trump is trying to do with getting people more involved in voting and making sure that people feel good about their vote and that their vote is being counted properly. I'm hoping this is part of the president's plan to really encourage people to get out and vote and make a difference in their local votes and their state and obviously the federal government. Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll know pretty soon because it's my understanding there's the judge who has put a temporary hold on this is having hearings on September the 10th, I believe it is, and then we'll know a decision pretty soon. All right. The other issue that I wanted to talk with you about that's been in the news around the state too is education. According to recent standardized testing results, more than half of South Carolina's 3rd through 8th grade students still can't do math on their grade level. Now, we've been talking about improving education in South Carolina literally for decades now, but nothing seems to happen. Well, what's the solution to this?
Well, nothing's happened because we haven't been able to take full universal school choice across the finish line. And, you know, Joey, you and I have talked about this before, and a bit of hope in this is a few months ago, the reading scores had come out. And the reading scores show that we have improvement, that we have really been improving in that same grade level on reading, which is a positive. But the fact that we are still low on math is unacceptable. These are two very important skills. And when you talk to, like I talk to lieutenant governors, I mean, I guess everybody talks to their people in a different state. That is the only thing that has changed the mark in states that were struggling in education. You know, Florida can tout it, Alabama can tout it. You know, you can see Sarah Huckabee is really all about universal school choice in Arkansas, getting that done there. That is what moves the needle, Joey, because it creates competition. But there's one thing I think most people are shocked when I talk about when it comes to education, and it's that the biggest problem we have today in education in South Carolina is truancy.
Interesting.
I mean, how are teachers, I mean, the best of teachers, supposed to teach kids that are not showing up for class? And, you know, I mean, when I was young, I didn't want to go to school either. I mean, it seemed way cooler to stay home. You know, my grandma lived with us, and I liked hanging out with my mom and her, and they would go shopping. Yep. I wanted to stay home too.
Hey, look, shopping, school. I think I'm going to go with shopping every time.
I know. But, you know, my mom used to say to me, she said, you have to go to school because if you don't go to school, I go to jail, and I'm not going to jail. So you're going to school. And I don't know what we have to do to impress on parents. I saw some crazy videos that popped up at the end of last school year with moms saying, well, there's only 3 days left of class, and I think these are worthless days, so I'm not sending my kids. Yeah. I think that's a really bad mindset and a really, you know, kind of bad example to set. It's important for your child to be at school every day, unless they're sick, right? I mean, it all happens. Sometimes we have to miss work, we're sick. But if they are well, they need to be in the classroom, and that's the only way we're going to change this problem. So we do need to have a big focus on parents and saying, listen, your children are your responsibility, and you got to get them to school every day.
Yeah. I never dreamed that truancy was still an issue. I mean, I just thought that, I mean, there's always going to be some that are having problems because of transportation or something like that, but I never realized that it was that big of a problem.
What I'm hearing from administration, you know, Melanie Barton in our office, she keeps the governor and I on top of all things going on in education. She says it is an epidemic problem.
Wow.
And now we're putting that onus on teachers, right? Teachers are trying to follow up and call parents. I mean, teachers have so much on their plate, right? So sometimes, you know, we're asking them to be mental health counselors. We're asking them in some situations to almost be surrogate parents, and we're expecting them to teach. And now we're getting angry because they can't. We're expecting them to teach kids that aren't showing up in the classroom, right? Like, we have to be realistic, and we need to say, parents, we need your help. Like, you have to get your kids there every day, and there are consequences if you don't.
Yeah, interesting. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Evette, it's always a pleasure. Appreciate your time today. And again, look, I'm just really sorry that I missed your birthday, but it won't happen again, I promise you.
Joe, you're going to be able to make that up to me, right? I mean, there's going to be a time, maybe in the not-so-distant future, that we're going to be able to hang out, and you can whip me up a really good dessert. How's that?
That sounds like a plan to me. Have a great rest of the week, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks so much, Joey. God bless. Have a great weekend.
That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Firmin Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.